is a movement we're taking from our shoulders going overhead. So if you want to follow along, you're going to grab your PVC pipe. I'm going to go over points, performance, execution, and setup position. So for the split jerk, whether we're taking this from a rack or coming from a clean into the overhead position, your feet will be between your hips and shoulders. I personally prefer to have my feet underneath my shoulders. It gives me a little bit wider base. So as I go into that dip and drive, I have a little bit more of a wider base to be able to do that. Now I've talked about previous exercises in terms of the press, push, press, and push jerk. This is gonna build upon that a little bit in terms of the dip. So setup position, feet are between your hips and shoulders, hands are about a thumb length distance away. So from a profile or side position, I have a full grip on the bar, elbows are slightly in front of my body versus being directly underneath. The reason for this is I want the bar to sit on my shoulders versus bar resting on my wrists and elbows, which are smaller joints. So again, this is my torso. This is where I want the bar to rest. If you're following along with a PVC pipe, it might be a little difficult because this is very light. It's a couple ounces versus a bar where you can use that weight, but focus on driving that position. So again, profile position here. If I go into this movement and I break it down, it's gonna be a dip, drive, and a split. So that dip position, I dip straight down, knees go forward, butt goes straight down, back slides down this imaginary wall where my torso stays exactly in contact with this imaginary PVC pipe. So hip joint, shoulder joint, that dip drive is important so that bar path can go straight up. So as I dip, I create some small flexion. I'm going to extend my hip, I'm going to drive that bar up, and as that bar goes up, I'm going to drive myself underneath, splitting my feet. So it looks like so at speed. Then I recover, front leg back, back leg front. So we'll get to that in a little bit. So again, from the front position, I'm going to dip, drive, split, arms locked out, then I recover. Now, think of this as a press underneath the bar versus a bar being pressed up. So as the weight gets heavier, I might get lower and lower. That bar is gonna get not as high on each repetition. So think of a press under the bar versus a press up. In theory, you can split jerk a little bit more than you can push jerk, depending on your mobility, depending on your technique, and depending on the amount of skill that you have. I personally love the split jerk. It's one of my favorite movements. I prefer it over the push jerk because you're able to get into a lower position because you're splitting your legs. So if you have a hard time doing overhead work, doing a split jerk will be a good movement for you to incorporate into your training. Now, let's go over the execution of the split. So I'm gonna try to do the slow motion as we do this. So again, we have the dip, right? We have that drive as the bar is going up. As I'm splitting my feet, I want to simultaneously have my one leg go forward and my one leg go back. If you slow it down very much, the back leg is gonna hit like a millisecond faster than your front leg. So again, at speed. In this position, notice that I have my front toe angled in slightly, if you guys can see from that position. Front toe, whatever that is, left or right, toes angled in slightly, back leg, toes angled in slightly. So I'm trying to create some tension and torque into the center of my body as if this is my midline right here. So both feet are angled in slightly. In this side position, right, notice that both knees are bent, back knee has a good generous bend versus a leg straight. The reason I have my leg bent is so I can get my hip lower and lower underneath that bar. If my leg is straight and I'm super tight my hips, it's gonna tilt me forward and I'm gonna have to create this big arch to get underneath. So if we're looking to stay vertical with our hip and shoulder joint, that bending of the back knee is gonna be imperative to allowing ourselves to get underneath that bar. Now, I know I have a black PVC pipe here, but if I can show it on the floor where you guys can kind of see from here, if I'm doing my dip drive, as I go to extend, I want that to stay center and I want to be able to have about a foot or two distance away from each foot. Meaning, I do not want to tightrope my split jerk. Notice that I'm going to be a lot more unstable here versus if I have a wider stance. I would say shoulder width or so. This is going to provide you more stable stance. So if I feel a little unbalanced, I can stabilize with my legs, then I can recover. Now that's the execution and points performance for a majority of the meat and potatoes of that movement. As we go to the recovery component, it's very important that front leg comes back first, then the back leg comes back. So again, I'm set up. I hit my lift, front leg comes back a step, back leg comes back a step. So think front leg back leg front. Then once I'm finished, I can lower the bar and bring it to my shoulders. If you're doing a clean and jerk, where you're doing the clean into the jerk, then you could just drop the bar overhead, drop it from overhead to the floor. So again, execution of this movement is important in terms of the timing piece. So as I go, dip, drive, under, split my feet, recover, front leg back, back leg front, and then bar back to the shoulder. Now, if you're just learning this movement, start off with a PVC pipe, then progress to the barbell. The barbell will give you a little bit of feedback. From there, you then can start to add load. Remember, finding whatever foot you step forward with is depending on you. If someone comes from behind you and your eyes are closed and they push you and you step forward, that's typically going to be the leg that you may come forward, splitting forward in terms of that front leg. So again, if you're learning this for the first time, start with the PVC pipe, move to a barbell, and then slowly start to add load. If you have any questions specifically to the split jerk, feel free to leave a comment below, share the video, provide a like. If you want more specific coaching, feel free to click the link in my bio and the link below. That will allow you to take you to my fitness app, and I will be able to coach you specifically in certain movements and help you get stronger. Again, any questions, feel free to let me know, but I will see you guys tomorrow for the next live. Thanks for tuning in.